Let's talk about expectations. So every parent has some expectation from a child, but some parents have too high expectations. Like the mother wants the daughter to do as well as the elder daughter, at least. Or the father wants the son to be at least as capable as others in the family tree, keeping the talent alive in the family. Or mother wants the son to do amazing things so that the son doesn't have any regrets later. Yeah, it's for the son. And father just wants the daughter to become the best version of herself. Like all of these are expectations coming in different forms. So expectation is a broad word, and I can define it as list of things which you hope someone will do or become, or not do or not become. For today's discussion, we are going to talk about the expectation only related to growth and achievements of the child, not expectations related to, let's say, good values, good behavior, etc. Okay. And the question that we will try to answer today is, what's the right way to have expectations from your child? That is, expectations from your child to grow, achieve, succeed, etc. So one of the biggest principle in life, like if you have been listening to my talks, like probably the starting principle I say is balance, and that applies here as well. So if someone says having any expectation from your child is wrong, they are wrong. And if someone says having any expectation from your child is just right, they are partially wrong too. Because the answer is not in a clear yes or a clear no. The answer is balance. And the answer is too many or too high expectations are bad, and too low expectations are also bad. We need balance. So you can never measure that balance in liters or kilograms, but you can measure it in terms of the positive impact that it leads to in your life and in your child's life. So if you're following the right balance, then automatically your family will be happier and more productive place to be in. Now, how do we achieve that right balance? That can be done by understanding some principles and bringing them all together, again, in a balanced way. And before I tell you the right principles, and I'll discuss 4 to 5 with you, I think 5 today, I want to talk about where are these expectations even coming from? Like, why do you expect anything from your child at all? So these are primarily coming from your own deeper desires. The desires that are built in you. Desires that you can basically never get rid of. Because we are creatures of desires, just like all other animals. We are creatures of desires and motives. Desire like hunger, thirst, sex, pleasure, status, etc. And some desires behind your expectations could be desire to have power, desire to achieve status, to be known by others, to dominate, desire to survive and thrive in a competitive world, to keep growing, etc. And since most parents see children as their own extension or see them as someone who they're responsible for, which they are, it's natural that like some of those desires, you actually want to get fulfilled through them. Like if my child succeeds, I succeed. If my child is at the top, I am at the top, right? So you expect a child to do something good so that you can feel good. So that's one reason why you have expectations, fulfillment of desires. Then these expectations can also come from your belief systems. Now, how is that different? See, the knowledge you have about the world, the wisdom you have, the information you have gathered, all of that together makes up your belief system, and that can also lead to some expectations from your child. So for example, if your belief is that success leads to happiness, then if you want your child to be happy, then you will have the expectation from the child to succeed, because the belief was success leads to happiness. If you have the belief that having a higher education degree leads to respect in society, then if you want your child to be respected, you would have an expectation from your child to have a higher education degree, right? Because that's the belief. So now even wanting happiness and respect in life are also your desires, but then your belief systems help you fulfill those desires. So think of it like this. If you're standing at point A, the desires in you will create a point B for you, where you want to go, and your beliefs will tell you how to go from A to B. Okay? So I summarize that behind your expectations from your child, you have desires and you have your beliefs. Now we can get to the principles behind the right way to manage your expectations. Principle number 1. First of all, you need to have a wise mix of expectations with appropriate intensity. What do I mean by that? The idea is that since there are multiple desires, there are going to be multiple expectations. And to be able to live a good life, you have to be able to manage your desires well. If you go too far into one direction, then you miss out on everything else. The same way, if one kind of expectation just go too high for your child, you're going to mess up things. If you violate this principle of balance in desires and in expectations, you can end up demanding too much from your child. Like you might want your child to become the A player, all-rounder, excel in everything. Like my child has to look good, like you have to study hard, you have to play games better than others, you have to be physically stronger, you must be good at your hobbies also, you must have great friends, your room has to be spick and span, the way you sit and eat must be well refined, the language you use must be on point, etc., etc. It's like any area you see your child lagging behind, you want to fix it. And when that happens, you can lose sight of which of those expectations are actually more important than others. And with that, life goes off balance. So ultimately, when it goes off balance, it leads to a loss of well-being for the child, for you, and for the family in the present or future or both. Okay. So first thing you have to make sure is that your expectations don't become more important than present well-being of the person. Even when the expectation is of future well-being, meaning you can't justify, because my child will be happy in the future, I will just make my child unhappy right now. There is something toxic there. That's why you have to start taking into account multiple aspects of life while you are thinking about expectations. So how will you decide that balance for your child? And how will you be able to decide, which expectations to let go of, which expectations to actually have more of? The question is actually very hard to answer because have you even answered it for yourself? Think about this. What are your expectations from yourself? Have you achieved the right balance of desires in your own life? Like, are you happy with your own life? Are you sure you're on the right track? If not, you can at least do one favor, which is please don't be too confident with your child. Don't act like you know the best way to live the life because honestly, you don't. Once you realize that, you can't be fanatic, like you can't be a tyrant. You'll first invest in your own wisdom. First, you'll find answers for your own life. First, you'll become a healthy, happy individual yourself, and then you can pass it on to your child. Okay? This is the first thing to remember. Find balance in your own life first and then teach your child. And of course, the goal is to have the right balance of expectations. Nothing too much, nothing too little. Principle number 2, you need to have right beliefs also. So first one was desire, second one was belief, right? So principle 2 is also based on that. You need to have the right beliefs about how much capable your child actually is and what does the child really need to go from A to B. And if your beliefs are wrong, you will have delusional expectations from your child, which can very quickly turn toxic. Some parents make the mistake that their child does something special in early childhood, let's say, and let's say the kid topped the class when she was 7 years old. And now they think my child is a topper. Now she can top again because she's done it once. Now the rest of the life, they're just running after the kid in the hope that the kid can do the same wonder again. Or some parents are just completely delusional. Like I've seen that where they have so unrealistic expectations from the child. The underlying belief is that my child has to be special. So like the child can't even sit for 30 minutes studying math, but they hope that in 11th and 12th, if we push our son to actually take math, we will send the kid to IIT. Now, such expectations are idiotic and ultimately they disappoint everyone. Okay. See, technically any child can do anything in the world. Technically, yes. But you just keep repeating this to your child that yes, you can do anything. And yes, my child can do anything. It won't magically transform them. For your child to succeed exponentially, they would need knowledge, skills, the right personality, a little bit of luck on their side, and you can't manufacture luck. And it's very difficult to actually change personality also. So gathering skills and knowledge, that also takes a lot of time. And you could be good at one thing, but that may not translate into others. So your child could be capable at one thing, does not mean they'll do everything. So if they're good at fixing the AC, doesn't mean they'll be good at fixing the business. Your child could be above average in one area and really below average in others. So one thing you need to do is, first of all, remove any element of just specialness and bias while evaluating your child, evaluating the capabilities of your child. Just because your blood is running in their veins doesn't mean they are more likely to go through any miracle. Universe is not giving any extra special attention to you or your child. Even if your kid is super smart and talented, they can still run into some bad luck and not do so well. Are you prepared for that? So keep your expectations from your child realistic. Be open to all possibilities. If anybody else's child can struggle in their life to achieve something, so can yours. And accept that fact that it's all right. Okay? So that will also calibrate your expectations. If you have like an unbiased, non-special view of your child. Okay? Principle 3, expectations from future must stand firm on acceptance in present. What do I mean by that? Ask yourself this question. let's say you have 2 or 3 major expectations from your child in terms of growth and achievement. What if those expectations are not fulfilled? If your child doesn't live up to your expectations, what do? If you start being embarrassed of your child, if you start resenting your child, if you start showing disapproval, constant criticism, if you start making them feel incompetent, then it means your expectations are becoming toxic. A simple way to prevent this is ask yourself, if my child doesn't fulfill any of my expectations, what would I truly feel? And would I be able to accept them? Would I be able to own my own child completely? Would I still shower love and affection? Would I still respect them? And if any of the answer is no, you're doing it wrong. It's okay to have expectations from your child, but it must start with acceptance and respect. So accepting your child and respecting them are unconditionally non-negotiable. Like you start with that, and then you can lay down some expectations. Okay, you know what? This is how we'll go from A to B, and I want you to go from A to B. But even if you don't, it's still fine. And that is your foundation. Okay? Principle number 4, pursue your expectations, keeping their sense of freedom maintained, or it may lead to high levels of resentment. Here you have to take into account and make space for their own expectations from themselves, which are arising from their own desires and beliefs. Because the child is not a blank slate, right? They must also feel a sense of freedom and autonomy. So for example, if the child wants to go at a slower speed than you, let's say you say ki in 2 years I want you to become state champion, and the child does not want to go at that speed. Child wants to reach there in 3 years. You need to adjust yourself to that. If the child wants to also excel in a video game, parallel to excelling in studies, you must allow some space for that too. It's not like, okay, only my goals matter, only my expectations matter. If the child wants to be proud video gamer, at least in this child's circle, like I want to be at the top, you must allow some time and space for that too, because it's their desires. You can't just completely put them aside. So you're allowing space for the desires and the beliefs of the child, which lead to their own expectations from themselves. And it's important to remember, because many parents actually think the children are born with a blank slate or something. No, they're not. They're not blank at all. They have their own desires and beliefs, so they expect something from themselves also. And they need the sense of freedom, and they need to be able to feel that they have the opportunity to live up to their own expectations. Okay? So if your expectations take over, if you dominate too much for a long time, the child will start to resent you. Like for sure. And I've seen that happen so many times, but parents still continue to make the same mistake. They think I know better answers, so they dominate. One day they would rebel, and they would do it with a vengeance. Okay? And then they might start rejecting even smallest of your requests, because now they are claiming their freedom. You took their freedom away for such a long time. You took them to one extreme, and now they will take you to the other extreme. So make sure that while you are laying down your expectations, allow space for their own expectations too. The way they want to go. There has to be balance there. And finally, principle number 5. Remember, initially I said too high expectations are problematic. Now I'm going to talk about the other side. Principle 5 is about the other side, which is too low expectations or no expectations. So principle 5 is just don't let your expectations be too low, because some expectations are actually needed. And why is that important? Like, why are some expectations really important? Why not let go completely? I'll tell you some reasons. See, first is your expectations from the child actually tell them what you find important in life. And the importance of that task becomes a bit higher in them. See, children also want to make you proud. Okay? They want to do the right thing by you also. So if you expect the child to play amazing football, it sure acts as a small motivating factor in child's thinking. Okay, you know what, my parents want this from me. Now, again, it's a small factor, not a complete factor. So a child does want to live up to the parents' expectations if they can, right? If they can in a good environment. So in right quantity, your expectations can have a motivating impact on them. Some parents make the mistake, they go too high and then they go too low, and that could result into troubles too. So if you bring your expectations down suddenly, that may seem like you're giving up on them. That's not healthy. So for example, all your life you've been telling your child, you can do anything, you can do better, you must become the best version of yourself. And then that led to a lot of fights and a lot of friction in the house. The child got sick of it, and then you got sick of the child's reactions, and then you suddenly go in the opposite direction. You know what? Now I'm done with it. And now you don't expect anything. That's also problematic, because it may just stop motivating them, and the child might start feeling, my parents don't believe in me anymore. And that's not healthy either. Some parents, by the way, it's even more unfortunate, some parents simply don't show any expectations overall at all. They don't just care much. It's like they're not even involved in child's life. They are too involved in their own goals and then in their own life. And that's not healthy either. That could actually be worse than too high expectations. See, for your child to develop fully, they need to have some confidence in themselves. They need some belief from the parents too. When the parent expects the child to do better, the child gets evidence that I must have something good in me, that my parent believes in me, that my parent thinks that I can do better. That evidence is important for them. And that belief in oneself is important to develop self-efficacy, because if you don't have that belief, why would you even try anything? Like, why would you ever take a risk in your life? Why would you aim higher? So that's why 0 or too low expectations are not healthy either. The balance that you're trying to achieve is care, be involved, but not too much. Now, there are some other things to keep in mind, and this goes back to my initial talk about ownership. See, technically, you must have nothing but goodwill and just good hope for the child. Technically, you don't have the right to expect anything in particular. You don't have that right. Please remember, you can just wish and hope. If your expectations are coming from any sense of ownership or entitlement from the child, you've already made a mistake. Okay? Remember that in the final analysis, my child should achieve something is nothing but another desire that you have. And since your child is a different human, their life has nothing to do with your desire. Please remember that. You need to have that internal separation, that ultimately anything that's coming from you is your desire and the child is a separate human. Why am I still saying that you have to some expectations? Because your expectations from the child are justified to the degree it actually helps the child feel confident and motivated to do better. The moment your expectations start breaking their confidence or motivation, the moment it starts to affect their mental health and even your relationship with them, you need to take immediately some steps back, like right away. So make it simple. Are my expectations hurting or helping the child? And if you don't know the answer, ask the child directly. Son, daughter, are you okay with my expectations from you? Is it helping you? And take their answers seriously. Now, this is child's feedback-based parenting. I'll talk more about that in some other talk. Okay. So for this week, the homework is actually very, very simple. Okay. Try to lay down your top 2-3 expectations, or 5 or 10, however many you have, from your child in terms of their growth and achievement, and go sit down with the child, communicate with them. What do you think about this? Are you okay with them? Like, what is your experience as I expect this from you? And take their answer seriously. So this would be your homework for this week. Shridhar LifeSchool is a team of psychologists who specialize in counseling. If you're going through very difficult times or you want to achieve higher well-being, we offer one-on-one counseling for individuals, couples, parents, and their children. To book sessions, go to our website shridharlifeschool.com.